Denton. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Denton Black Film Festival 2023. And today's panel is the future of filmmaking and content creation. I am your host, Michael Grayson, and I am the Chief Technology Officer with the Denton Black Film Festival Institute. We want to start off by thanking our presenting sponsors, NBC5, the City of Denton, Panavision, and our other sponsors. Today, we're going to be talking, of course, about the future of filmmaking with our guest, 3D artist Razik Brown from Fort Worth, Raphael Sadiq, a content creator and animator out of Atlanta, and Damon McDuffie from the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco, and he is a filmmaker specializing in the AR, VR space. And we want to bring the guys on, and we'll start the conversation.
How you doing?
How's it going?
Hey,
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
doing all
That's
right.
great. That's great. Thank you for joining us here. We got a lot to talk about. I basically want to start off by just having you guys do a brief introduction of yourself and kind of what you're working on now, and let the audience know what's going on with you. We want to start off, Damon, since you're on the block. Let's bring it on, brother.
Okay, how y'all doing? I'm Damian McDuffie. I'm a creative technologist, a digital archivist, writer, and filmmaker. I also developed an app called Black Terminus AR. It's an augmented reality studio for your pocket. It allows anybody in the world to turn physical objects or pictures into animations, 3D, and kind of blend the physical and the digital world. And I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Razik?
I'm Razik Brown. I run a small nonprofit where I'm using digital technologies, mostly Blender, AR tech, VR tech, and now we're getting into the world of AI to teach elementary school students and college students how they can innovate their processes. Right now, I'm working with some elementary school students using AI and Blender to make a comic book, while I'm working with the Texas Women's University to sculpt out a park for a historical research project.
Great. Raphael?
Well, I'm Raphael Sadiq, filmmaker turned animator. CEO of Unyield. Is a cinematic world kind of reimagining the metaverse. So we're taking the first step into the metaverse. So it's King, and happy to be here.
Great. We're going to kick this thing off. This is the Denton Black Film Festival. So we're all things film, and we really wanted to talk about the future and the now of filmmaking using augmented reality, virtual reality, and these AI tools. Damien, I know your project uses pretty much all of these elements. Can you kind of give us an overview of what you're working on there in your project and with Black Terminus?
Yeah, I forgot to even mention that. First off, I'm from Oakland, California, not San Francisco, not any other places.
Sorry, brother.
I'm from. I gotta make sure I say that. My project is called Into the Archives. It's a docu-series about Black art in the metaverse. So separate before we started creating the docu-series, I used to go around the world, and I say used to, this is over the last 2 years, go around the world to places like Dakar, Mexico City, Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, and introduce different artists to the augmented reality technology that I created. So as I did that, I realized we should probably film some of this stuff. And basically I've kind of like taken that formula and work with artists of all kinds, from muralists to metal workers, 3D artists, all of these people, and showing them how augmented reality can enhance their workflow. So what we've done is film this process with several artists, including Dana King, who sculpted a bust of Dr. Huey P. Newton here in Oakland, and then went through that process and added AR to it. There's a few museums here that we've done that to as well. So part of our project is to kind of demystify immersive technologies. My mission is really about developing and inspiring the next generation of Black creative technologists. So I kind of use my own technology that I created, go out, introduce folks to it, and then in our docu-series, we're able to see that process all the way through. I think the innovative part about what we're doing with our films and with our docu-series is not only introducing artists, introducing their history, talking to them about how immersive technologies can be combined with their own art. We're also trying to create a situation where each person who experiences the film, whether they're at home or in a theater, they'll also be able to, at the end, experience firsthand the actual augmented reality experience from their seat. All they'll do is open up the Black Terminus app, the camera, point it to the image that we have there. And then at the end of that process, they'll be able to see it. So I really kind of see, I'm very late to filmmaking. I've been doing most of my stuff in the last like 2 or 3 years. I just have a really good quality team, and, I'm a really good writer and storyteller. So I really just try to use the film to demystify this whole process, to give people ideas of how AR can add value to the artifacts that Black people have, specifically photos. I think that's the untapped wealth in our closets, in our basements, all of those things that can really make us a lot of money, or at least just preserve our history.
Great. So as you're traveling, around the world, how are other cultures and parts of the world, how are they adapting or accepting of this new kind of virtual reality, automated systems?
I think one thing about like anywhere I've gone, I think that people are more willing to try out my technology because I created it. So they're like also kind of like, oh man, this is your app. I can download it right now. And then it's also just an impressive technology. So I think that people see it, like, the reactions are great. We're holding workshops out there, or we're just on the street showing artists, showing muralists how this stuff can work, and just giving them sparking little ideas. So it's been very positive. I think people are really hungry in a lot of those places that I've mentioned, and they have amazing art. So I'm always trying to get with people. I'm just now starting to consider myself an artist. I've always done these little things to create animations without the skill set, create kind of like these experiences just by learning and doing and making shit easy. So, I kind of take that on the road, and that's, I'm already thinking about the work that you all are doing already and figuring out how can I kind of work with the art that you're doing, even though I haven't heard about it. So that's where my mind is.
Definitely. Great. That's great. Raphael, tell us a little bit about Unyield and how's the augmented reality, virtual reality, the AI tools, how's that assisting you in what you're doing?
Yeah, so Unyield is a bold step, right? So it's reimagining animation in the metaverse. So what I mean by the metaverse is really, it hasn't been hard to find. It comes in multiple aspects. Like first of all, the internet started on a desk, and then it went mobile. And now with Web3, we're supposed to be immersed in it. And a lot of people kind of don't. I think everyone has a different vision of what the metaverse can be. But my vision is that we're immersed in the metaverse. So no longer it's a one-way conversation, it's a two-way conversation. I remember doing AR back, I don't want to date myself, like 15 years ago. What I did a tracking where you take your phone, you point to an image in a magazine, and the image would animate. And that what I did. But, it was primitive at that moment, right? You had to kind of hold your phone right. And what we're doing at Unyield is we're taking it to the next level, right? We're embedding the content where it's a two-way conversation with using, real-time animation. We're able to kick out animation a lot faster than traditional arts would with mocap and stuff like that. So utilizing AR, utilizing AI, utilizing VR, creating a whole virtual environment for, fans of the show to, have conversations. We have, digital outfits that are, NFT based that can also, when you can purchase outfits from the show, and you can have that and you use your phone and track outfits on you, on your character. And so there's a lot of things that haven't been really dived into. A lot of times people try to discover new tech without utilizing the tech that we have available. So that's what we're doing right now, is showing what can be done with this Web3, what we have right now.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. I remember Second Life.
Yeah.
And Second Life was kind of an immersive world where they sold real estate, they sold clothes and digital add-ons. It's almost kind of like that's come around again. Because when I first kind of started hearing about AR, I remember the Pokemon craze.
Right.
Where they had the little app on the phone and everybody was going around trying to find things with the Pokemon. Then I thought, now I'm starting to hear more about, digital real estate. People are buying, spending millions on real estate, and then the clothes and the different things within the gaming, the gamification of it. What's in your opinion, maybe Razik, you can take this one. What's different between that Second Life world and then what's happening now?
So I think Raphael said something very interesting, which is, and I agree with it mostly, is that the metaverse means a lot of different things to a bunch of different people. If y'all don't mind taking a little science fiction history trip with me real quick, the term the metaverse actually comes from this science fiction book called Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. And in it, it's that world is just, it's the internet. That's just the word they use for like the internet. And the people who were super, super immersed in that internet, they wore all the different peripherals and stuff. In the book, they called those people gargoyles. But everyone else that interacted with the metaverse interacted with it in various levels. Some people used a computer, some people used, I guess, their phone type devices, and you could go on and so on from there. And so when people ask me, when I imagine the metaverse, I imagine just the internet and just us inventing and figuring out new ways to get people to engage with it. Um, Specifically, I used to be more of a VR guy than an AR guy, but I'm currently watching that entire industry, if you look at the news, kind of not do super well right now. So I think on some level that it's a wild west right now. We don't know what this metaverse thing is going to look like. Is it going to be a bunch of transactions? Is it going to be us doing what we normally do but with more QR codes everywhere? I think there's just a lot of options, and I think that's interesting.
Now I know also that you work a lot with young people, with
Yes,
kids. Is this kind of changing the way that they're interacting with the technology and learning? And the reason I asked that, I've got one of these Quest headsets. And a couple of months ago, I downloaded an app that would allow me to connect my computer and have like a heads up display. Mm-hmm. And I could go in and work, and it's a whole virtual desktop type environment. Are the kids kind of coming up with that type of technology now? Or is that something that you're seeing that they're kind of gravitating towards?
I wish the answer was yes, because I love that stuff. But the answer I mostly see is that kids are largely gravitated to their phone as a tool to make art and express, without stepping on too many toes, almost to a detriment. There's not like a lot of I think what people forget is the in-between step of knowledge you need to be able to use Quest headsets, etc. Is that you still need to know how to use a computer a little bit. And so I found that through doing VR work with elementary school kids, specifically middle school kids, high school kids, they get it. Um, um, it teaches some computer literacy there. But the short answer is I think that there are kids using this stuff to be creative, but mostly what I see is it's on the cell phone. And like, you know, they're very interested when it comes to AR and AR technology, and when it comes to what can I do with a TikTok filter or a Instagram filter, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we slowly see it starting to creep, into the mainstream. What I mean, me just been looking at sports here for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and what Fox Sports is doing. Even now with the news locally, with NBC5, one of our sponsors, Rick Mitchell, their weather guy, he'll come out and it's raining today, or he's explaining a kind of cloud system or something, and these AR elements come out where he's able to walk around in 3D and kind of point things out. If it's a weather system or something's happening that he wants to explain to the public, he can visually, bring that up on the screen, and it's like it's there in studio. So we're really starting to kind of see where that's happening. Now, Damien, with your app, is that kind of where you wanted to go mobile with it because of kind of what Razik was alluding to?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. I think that it's one from my experience, like, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's the first time I ever even heard of Unity. I taught myself how to use it on YouTube. A 20-minute tutorial took me about a month to finish, and I was able to finish because I knew where the end goal was, and that it could be done. But I think that the whole process for creating is just too hard. It's too difficult, and it's really ridiculous that people aren't trying to simplify it. Just because, like, right now, generally you got to know code to be able to do AR and VR in a lot of instances, but you don't need to know HTML to send an email. So, like, when I went around the world to all these places, I was creating a product that was really desktop heavy. But when I was in Tanzania and I'm in Kenya, or I'm even in Mexico City, or Puerto Vallarta, most people are computing on their phone. So that, like, I had to kind of check my own kind of privilege and where I start. And then the other part, looking ahead, I see that most folks are focused on kind of getting the glasses and getting the headsets and all of that, right? But I still don't see the majority of Black people in the world being able to have access to a lot of those things. So we had to kind of refocus in on mobile first. And when I did that, it also forced me to make sure that my creation process was mobile first as well. So it made me a lot more like versatile in the way that I'm able to teach students, because they're so much better with mobile editing and all these things. And I just have to introduce them to, instead of, using Photoshop, we're going to use InShot or Canva. Instead of using, After Effects, we're probably going to use like Mug Life or something like that. And these things work. And what I've seen is that it does enough to make the barrier of entry kind of very easy. And our folks are so fucking creative. It's like they can do a lot with a little. So I think that what I see, even over the next 10, 15 years, we're still going to be in mobile. And I really want to focus in on that and just really I think if we do that, then that next step for those same students to go into some serious kind of Blender, Unity, Unreal Engine kind of creation, I think that goes up. Because once you get to a point where you're creating in these easy realms and you kind of got that, now it's easy to kind of step into it. And I think that that's the kind of role that I think mobile is playing. And that's kind of the role that I want my app. I want you to be able to create from the app. I want you to be able to do the pre-production from your phone and make that process easy. Drag and drop is better than learning all the codes, because I can't spend my time doing that. I gotta learn something and pass it on.
Definitely. Raphael, so how does mobile play into what you're doing over at Unyield?
Well, I agree with what Damien was saying. We're mobile first, right? You can't present a technology if they don't have the capabilities to use it, right? Not everyone has the Oculus Rift, or not everyone has some of these new headgears to use AR and VR. But what I see this whole the Web3, the metaverse, I don't see technology being physical, right? I think a lot of people have this idea you're gonna walk around with this big headgear, and I think that's the opposite of what technology does. Technology kind of gets out of the way. First, it becomes big. You think about the typewriter, right? It was on our desk. It was huge. And then it slimmed down and slimmed down. You look at the capabilities of a laptop versus a typewriter. They're very similar in form and function, but the capabilities of a laptop tremendous outweighs a typewriter and is smaller, right? And now we got, iPads and whatnot. So I feel like technology is going to shrink down. Right now, the early stages, we have these big headgears that we utilize, but I see it. I've been in a couple of experimental rooms where they have eye tracking. You walk in the room and the screen is checking your eye, and as you move, the background has parallax, and it feels like you're having a real-time conversation with someone, right? And there's no headgear, there's no nothing, right? You walk in there, you're having a real-time video conversation. So I don't really see, I agree with Damon saying, it's the technology that people have that you have to focus on. So with the metaverse, we're focusing on utilization of the cell phone, and we're going to bring, I know after COVID, people want to get out and they want to do more. Looking at their phones were cool when you were stuck in the house. But I think now people want to experience. And I think it's more about experiential type things. I just left, I think a couple of days ago, was a Stranger Things experience in Atlanta. And I thought it had a lot of key things. But when I seen the line and how much money it was making, I noticed that people wanted to experience it. Watching the show was one thing, but experience is another thing. And at Unyield, what we do, we focus more on the experience. We want you to be immersed in it. We want to blur the line between the screen and your reality.
Great. Now, I was listening to the marketing officer from Verizon on yesterday on a podcast, and she was talking about their plans with immersion and 5G. Mm-hmm. That's one of their big 5G rollouts, is to kind of bring Web3 and immersion for clients on mobile, because that's their business. Going back to what my experience with it, I was using this from a filmmaking aspect with the headgear to do location scouting. I know that's, at some point they had the phone where you could put the little glasses on the phone and you could do the same thing with the phones. That didn't seem to take off as people thought it would. I don't know if it was quality or what the situation was. But when you're Raphael, when you're working on these animations, is there a plus or a minus working, via mobile as opposed to a headset, to be able to kind of be totally immersed in real time? Do you find that easier or better, or?
Well, real time, because I have a background in 3D. Before real time, it took days, right? For a personal computer, you may have like a 4K $1,000 computer, and it still took you days to render. Now, real time, you can drop it down to a 2K computer, and you render it in real time, faster than you can see it. I think what interesting thing with the headset, when it first popped off, and you just slide your phone in there wasn't many use cases for it, right? You put it on and you're like, all right, and there was nothing to use it for. There was no use for it. I think the internet kind of bursted on because of social media. Everybody can get on, everybody can exchange. It's community, right? A lot of times you can't visit your family and friends either when you want to, but now with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can communicate, you can engage with other people, right? Versus traditional, when I was growing up, with just TV, it's a one-way conversation, and you would go outside unless your favorite show came on. So I think that community is what needs to be focused on in the metaverse, is engaging with each other and having those conversations. I think on a simplest form, what we're doing right now, but on a bigger form is if I was in a room and the screen was right in front of me and I couldn't tell the difference, and we were having that conversation. It's not as good as the original thing. We can never get there, but I think we need to erase I think technology need to erase the barrier of us not being able to be in the same room. I think when you do that, I think when technology gets out the way, I think that's when we fully immerse in the metaverse. Once it's there, you walk around the headgear, you got the phone, you're close, we're just not there. And I think there's so many use cases that you can utilize the phone better than what they're doing right now.
Yeah. I think once the hardware kind of miniaturizes to a point, or maybe if it could be something like the glasses I'm wearing. Right. Or maybe, something, a blackout, and then we can see it, because like I use my my headset, a lot. there's a movie theater inside. Like I said, there's even a couple of films where I can, there's an animated one that I love to go into that I can actually walk around inside of the scene. I interact, I can pick things up, I answer the telephone, different things like that. And like I said, I use it for location scouting. There's a program called Wonder. You just type in your coordinates and you can be anywhere in the world, and it's not real time, but it's immersive.
Right.
So maybe Google came through a couple of months earlier and, you know, took the picture or whatever, but I can walk around and look and say, okay, I would love to shoot here. There's a tree, there's a house here, this road, or et cetera. How do you guys feel that that's going to kind of change? And or, you know, as Black filmmakers and creators, are we there? Are we willing to do that? Because basically, I got into this for the price of a decent pair of Jordans. You know,
Right.
to put it in perspective, you know, it wasn't super expensive.
Right. I think what a lot of this conversation is alluding to, you're going to have your end user experience, and then you're going to have your creator experience, right? And the end user, I think a lot of folks here, right, that the end user experience for most folks, at least for the next 10 years, is going to be what they can do with their phone. I also think, Michael, that there's going to be a lot of, like, I think I call it industrial use. I would say, you know, like tool use for people, you know, people who need to look around and do location scouting that way. Folks like me that when they do 3D models and they want to do them to scale, want to literally walk around it, look at it. You know, artists will need, you know, I think that, yeah, it will be a tool in the toolbox for artists, especially the headsets. I don't think they're gonna stop making them anytime soon. I know Apple has their new one coming out. They've dropped the price of the Quest. I think that they're gonna stick around for a while. But on this note of mobile, though, I think one of the things I'm super excited about is there's this one type of code called Babylon JS, and it allows basically you can run 3D experiences that are about as good as a PS4 directly off the web because it's using web GPU. Now, a lot of people haven't been making things for it, Babylon JS, but I think that, you know, when I look at the future of what Web 3.0 could look like, I think if you're running something off of a powerful web GPU, and you're using a good enough phone, we will get to the point where your phone can do that location scouting for you in something more like real time, rather than needing to buy an expensive headset. That being said, I own 2 expensive headsets, so let me not you know, be like, you know, they're useless or anything, you know.
Definitely. What are some of the use cases that you guys are looking at as far as some of these virtual characters? I know Unreal has the MetaHuman, Unity has something similar, Real Illusion, especially Raphael in the animation space. I've been looking at that. You know, we had a conversation before we came on, and we were talking about, you know, as far as like graphic novels or animation. What are your thoughts on using some of this artificial, for lack of a better word, actors in your productions?
Well, I utilize a couple of those, right? Mix and match for some of the background characters. My main characters I create custom. But what it allows you to do is for like an individual, a team of 5, a team of 3, you can create a lot more, right? So technology allows us, when the technology just like jumps, it allows someone like me to, some of my animation, you think it was a huge team behind it, right? And I'm able to compete with bigger studios, right? Because I think it's all about creativity and capability, right? Because at the end of the day, they'll hire a person like me to do it at their job anyway. So I can hire the same team to do it at my little micro studio, right? And you know, I'm in my garage right now where I do my mocapping, right? So, and then there's some AI augmented voice things because one of my characters are young, so it's able to tweak my voice. So there's what the technology is allowing us to do is put more power in a creative hand, right? And there is a huge a barrier, you know what I mean? If it's new technology, it's very difficult. But once you get over that hump, like Damien was saying, once you kind of gradually tiptoe until you climb so far, you're like, oh wow, what I can do, and then everything's based off that, right? When you learn the fundamentals of Photoshop, you learn how to blend stuff, then you learn Substance Painter. Then from Substance Painter, you can learn Unreal. Now you know Unreal, you know Unity, and if you know Cinema 4D, you know Blender. So you started learn one program, and it's just like, okay, now I know all these programs because they all build off the same thing. And if a new program comes out, it's based off the old one, right? So I think to summarize your answer is that these new capabilities are allowing the individual or smaller team to do a lot more than what they used to.
Now, as these tools are coming online, is there any talk, within your peers or industry wide about, the AI specifically replacing traditional animators or filmmakers or storytellers in any way, or is it like Razik said, is it just another tool?
I mean, honestly, I like to be transparent. There, technology just doesn't come to aid in jobs. It comes to replace jobs. Let's be honest, right? It will shrink the job down. If it takes 10 people to do it, and new technology comes in, it'll take 5 people to do it, right? It usually shrinks the job. That's the whole benefit of it, to get, to do more with less. So yes, there is some fear, and I have seen some layoffs of people who, with the AI coming in, because I've heard recently that Disney's can create their own AI model to get away from the whole lawsuit. Like if they build those from scratch from all the images they have, then who could sue them, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they're doing that not because their artists are not capable, but to shrink down the budget, right? Which at one hand, it does affect somebody who's a traditional artist. It affects them in a negative way because there's less work out there available. But on the opposite end, I think you can utilize that tool for your tool set and be able to, since you're ground zone, you can do a lot more, right? You can take the power into your own hands. So I think we've seen technology hit industries and shift it up. You know what I mean? A lot of things that was in the past, we don't have anymore. I mean, we've seen cashiers go, right? You go in the store, I mean, when the first automated cashier came out, it was like 1, and then it was like 4, and then it was like 8, and then it was like, where's the cashiers? You know what I mean? So we've seen it happen, right? It's usually gradual. This technology is happening so fast, but I mean, there's definitely a lot of use cases. I myself was talking earlier. I can't use it right now because of the legality situation of it. You know what I mean? I have to wait till that thing to iron out, because I want to make sure that artists are compensated for their use case. And I know you use the Layon 5, and it does a whole internet crawl, and it just grabs images and whatnot. So I want to make sure I'm ethically using it correctly. But I say the technology is not going anywhere, and we're just we really are not even. We're not even in the beginning of it. We haven't even it hasn't even settled down yet. I mean, I'm constantly updating my Stable Diffusion model daily, and I'm constantly updating these different models and different plugins like daily. I don't even have a chance to even play with that when another one comes out. So I think we're so early in the process, and I see that being a huge thing that you can leverage as an individual, as a small team. But I'm excited to see where it goes, to be honest.
Razik, what are your comments around that? What are your thoughts?
I've got a couple. So I think we should always address the legality thing. We were talking about it earlier, and I think Raphael kind of my thinking on it. I think Raphael kind of ran the gamut on it. Was Disney is creating their own version, right? So it's not like it's going to go away. I personally think that I'm happy for this conversation that AI has opened up about legality. And to be honest, I think we're all kind of starting to see what the limits of copyright are, and how useful how may or may not useful it will be. If and the way I like to think of it is like, yeah, Leon 5 is horrible, right? It just went and took everybody's art, but it's not like everybody's art just appeared there out of nowhere. It's just not like somebody went into people's brains, stole that art. When in the earlier days of the internet, when it was advantageous for the artists to just put their work and just get as many eyeballs on it as they could, that was the move for an artist. Put your work out there online for free. Well, now we have machines that can look at 70 or 30 years worth of art. So now maybe the move as an artist is you don't show all your stuff for free all the time. Maybe that's not what we should be doing. Or maybe when we share art, we need to start thinking, well, okay, maybe there's some for me and some for them. We really might have to start changing our thinking. We were talking about this a little bit before we started this chat, where I like to compare AI technology to the early stages of hip hop tech, right? You know, from from the New York blackout, when people literally stole the records in New York, stole the records to start that movement, to then the guys later just taking whatever beats and samples they could so they could rap on top of it, to even the legal battles that happened when dudes from when Motown and disco folks and even folks like Weird Al and LL Cool J started having arguments about who belonged to what. This is just to me, it's just part of the game of creating art. Um, but I guess my advice to people right now when it comes to all AI, because people will ask me, well, what should I do? I'm like, art is about risk. And art is about risk, and the big dogs will use it if you don't. But you just got to figure out. But just because something is risky doesn't mean you should put yourself in a bad legal situation. So that was a little. I've had this conversation a lot, so it's a little near and dear to my heart.
Damien, what are your thoughts around the legal and ethical issues?
I think that, you guys touched on a range of topics. I think in terms of, I don't know about the legal issues, but the ethical issues, I kind of look at it more so like 2 weeks ago, I used some visual AI to create an image, and it didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. Then I asked my friend to do it, and it was just way better, right? And part of what I'm saying is, I think that this all is really about workflow. Like I think it's separate. Stealing art, all of that, I think that's separate than the workflow for the artists themselves. So I think the people who are gonna win are gonna be the artists that actually take these technologies that they think are replacing them and utilize them, because they already have the skill set. They're already like well ahead of the regular people in terms of creation. And now you're gonna take this and put it on steroids. It's kind of like, when my friend explained like how revolutionary Procreate is. It's like, every time I draw a straight line, it's not a straight line, right? And that has changed everything. And I can duplicate it. I can do a lot more. And I think that artists in general, and I kind of look at it as somebody who's coming into my art and being able to look at a lot of my artist friends specifically, don't know the amount of power and creativity that it still takes to kind of like take these tools and turn them into something great or something interesting. And sometimes it might be a little bit more difficult to kind of combine all of the different elements. And as we're just experimenting, workflow is going to be longer and shorter and all that. But I really think that this metaverse, and I focus on the real world metaverse, is kind of like how we're interacting with the world, the experiences. Like it's going to be won by the people who are content creators. Like when I started talking, interesting enough, I think that most kids, when they're on like TikTok and Instagram, they don't think of that as AR. Like they still, like, I know that they've experienced it, but it's a filter. It's not AR.
Yeah.
And then when I'm teaching them AR, and then I kind of say, oh, like when you're on Instagram, there are people behind there making all of those experiences for you to experience. But what if you were on the other side? And that kind of like changes how people look at a lot of things. So I think there's a combination of understanding of what do we have the shared vocabulary of what we're talking about, and then are we equipping people with the right tools to kind of create. My whole passion is about introducing this technology to folks and showing them how they can use it in the way that they are right now, without any extra things, without any extra skill sets. Kind of like, you know, the unskilled professional being able to do these things just with the right tools. And I see AI and I see all this stuff just kind of increasing that workflow. If we can kind of connect the AI piece to, now this is going to make this more accessible for more Black people. I'm always talking about Black people, but you know,
No,
like this is
that's
gonna make it more like accessible. So now, you know, I got 10 nephews over here that can step into this world because I can equip them with these skills or with these technologies that don't necessarily mean that they have to take 6 months, a year of learning or boot camp or money to kind of do. So I think if we kind of reframe it as an opportunity for so many people, and our folks are the most creative folks in the history of the world. So if we can kind of get ahead of this, this could be our lane.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like there's, you know, this digital divide that folks have been talking about for, you know, 30 years now, since the internet has kind of come onto the scene. Whereas, you know, these technologies come, they're developed, they're put out into the world, and someone else kind of reaps the benefits outside of our community. But in many instances, we ended up being the chief consumers of this technology, but we're not sharing in the spoils of the technology. One thing that that interests me about this, about what all you guys are doing, is the economies of scale at a point where it's going to be open for more people of color, more people that look like us to take advantage of this. What are your thoughts on this?
Who do you want to go
Rosé.
first?
You can go ahead.
I would say it depends on it depends on your scale. How many people you working with? What are you trying to do? I mean, that's always the answer, right? You know, to give a very good example, connecting this question to the last question that you asked. Let's say I have five folks just from, let's say 5 folks from around the way, right? Now, if 3 of them can draw really well, right? And then but they don't have that much they don't have a lot of experience in doing computer graphic design. Having an AI help me draw stuff I might not use an AI program to help me draw, because those dudes can draw really well. What they need, you know, what we're trying to produce is, let's say, a comic book or a magazine, and they've got the drawing skills on they already got the drawing skills. So all I really need to teach them is how to like scan stuff in, maybe put it into Photoshop, work it up, and then lay it out. Now, if only one of the people on that team of 5 can draw, then I might use that person to I might then bring AI into the workflow, because I'd say, hey, we're going to train the computer on this guy's style, and then you two are going to help kind of do some of the filler images and work with AI to help this guy out, make more images. So on some level, yes, we've gotten to the level where whether we're working with cell phone technologies, or we're working with dudes like us that know how to use this technology and bring it to our own people, we can work at economies of scale. But are the knowledge and the resources out there, like, are they wide enough so that we can start seeing sort of like a digital artistic renaissance within our communities? I don't think we're quite there yet. But every time I look around, I see more guys that look like me that are doing the AR, VR, AI, teaching, filmmaking thing. So I think that, that kind of answers the questions, that we are reaching the economies of scale that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, when a few weeks back, Lenza hit on Facebook and Instagram, and everybody was doing Lenza, and it's like we as a community, we kind of jump on things like that, but are we creating these things? You know, like things that like Damon is creating or Raphael is creating, what's kind of, in you guys' opinion, what's the impediment for more of us to fall into that side of the equation? You know, we're big on the consumption side. You know, what are some of the things that maybe we can do here at DBFF and other entities like this to kind of push the creative side more?
Well, I would say I think we got to give it up to the OGs, and I think we don't necessarily give this individual credibility. But I was there at the beginning. I would say, now hold your I would say Soulja Boy at the beginning, because I was there. I was an internet kid, right? I remember when the MySpace popped off, and I remember Soulja Boy was actually hustling out and doing things that we take commonplace. He was dropping videos daily. He pushed a whole music revolution on the internet before anybody else did, before any major star did it. So, I mean, you look at, he didn't have nothing but a phone, right? I think at the early stage, he didn't have a phone. I mean, I even got tagged in a couple of his early posts and early DMs when he early got started. So I think on the creative side, I think you look at, African-American people, and we might not necessarily have the tools, but we have the creativity and we have the willpower to do it, right? And so you look at, give Soulja Boy his credit. He pushed the genre forward, and now we're literally still following his footsteps. We're still doing. You go to a TED Talk, they're talking about something he's already done a long time ago, and he's you watch him. I mean, he's comical at times, but you watch him. He's already building his own game system. He's already doing a lot of different things that he's pushing to the next level because he was raised on the internet. I think we're all around the same age. I think we was born on the internet and we kind of pushing the levels. But I think what Damien's doing by putting technology in people's hand, allowing them experience from the front end and the back end, I think that's huge. Because once you see it, once you're like, oh, wow, that's how that works. I think the next level, so, okay, let me try this, or let me try this, right? I think that's a huge thing because I think, what you were saying, we don't want to be consumers of this technology, right? We want to be producers of it, and then also producing, we need to reap the rewards. A lot of times we produce technology, we produce music, we produce culture, we produce fashion, we produce all these things all over the world, but when it's time for, people to get paid for it, we don't get paid. I think that's a bigger issue because I feel like we're going to be at honestly, if I was a betting man, I feel like we're going to be at the forefront of this, right? We're going to push in a direction that people might not necessarily say, whoa, I didn't think you could do it like that, right? I think you look at hip hop was a fusion of all this stuff. No one was looking around and say, oh, what's the new genre of music? You look at jazz before that was another fusion. You look at rock and roll. You look at all these different music genres, right? You look at fashion, look at clothing. I mean, to the early days of people wearing shirts twice their size, crisscross. You got all these things that people take commonplace. The ripped jeans that we still do to today, right? So we didn't need technology to create fashion and style and direction. But when you look at who's selling the ripped jeans, you look at who owns the record industry, you look at who's ripping the benefits of it, I think that's where we always kind of fall short.
Damien?
Yeah, well, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that a lot of times Black folks, I think I always say that about AR, and I guess I'm saying this about Black people, we're only limited by our imagination and our budget. And I think a lot of times the things, at least let me talk about for myself. When I was creating earlier, I'm always creating within a budget of what I think is attainable versus what can happen. And that's something kind of even being in XR over the last 2 or 3 years is learning that like I'm I have to dream bigger. I have to ask for more. I have to, because we're looking about impact and scale and all of that. And sometimes I think just thinking about an internal budget that you think that you can't even go beyond, then that is a great limitation for most people. I think also like we have to really kind of like focus on helping folks create in a way that's kind of like organic and like connected to them, and creating experiences that are relevant. Like AR has been around forever, but it wasn't until I'm a Black Panther Party archivist. And then I saw the all these archives that I have that I can't share with people, but through AR I'm able to kind of like safely display them and kind of have people interacting and have new uses out of it. So I think a lot of it is like, if they tell you that AR is only flower crowns, then that's the like the lens that you're gonna look through it in. So once it's kind of like is taking out of that, like I'm gonna say one last thing. One of the reasons why I created my technology is being into the Black Panther archives and the Dr. Huey P. Newton archives. And he has an essay called "The Technology Question" in 1972. And this idea, it basically, to make it plain, is that, you know, technology impacts everybody so much, everybody, whether we want to engage or not, that we need real community control of technology to decide what the future policies are. If community had control of airplanes, then we can also have a say on if we drop bombs in other countries. So that was the kind of the connection. And I think that a lot of times in tech, what is set by white men, and they say this is how we use this technology. If it's up to Mark, we're just buying in the metaverse all the time, right? So I think that if once we have more Black people in, we're gonna be able to push it and create in a certain way. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that. There's so many things I didn't think of that my friends are using my technology for. So
yeah,
that's what I love.
So we're gonna come through and pimp it out and put some rims on this AR.
Exactly. We gotta make it appealing too. We gotta make it, you know, relevant. That's the only thing. Whatever is relevant, the technology can be applied to. It's just a channel, but we just have to kind of go where the people are and say, oh, you know, you can do this with it. Oh, you know, like if you integrate this little thing, it's gonna bring you some engagement. Oh, like we just have to do what Black people have done to corral us in the past. Yeah.
Great. One last thing I wanted to kind of touch on. I've noticed this slowly kind of starting. It's big. Esports are big, of course, but the virtual amusement parks. One just opened maybe about a month ago, a few miles from where I live here in Fort Worth.
Like the immersive light.
Yeah, you go inside, you put the goggles on, and you're in the world. But it's basically just a huge open space. Thoughts around that? Do you see that coming on as something that's going to be available? Well, it's already available, but more adopted here in the future?
I think we're in the early stages, to be as kind as I can about that. I've seen a couple of them actually. Used to be one down the street from my house that closed down. The holodeck space, the holodeck amusement park, I think is still on its way. But I think guys like Raphael and Damien are actually thinking about it. I mean, there's this one called something Wolf. I can't remember. There's one out in they're building. Meow Wolf, there we go. And they mix and match their experiences. Some of them are, you know, goggles and stuff, and then others they have, you know, physical things you can walk through and touch. And I think there's going to be some combination of the both of the two to get to our digital amusement park. I'm not sure everyone paying, you know, doing laser tag with, you know, the laser tag thing in a big room is there quite yet.
All right. Well, we got less than a minute. Raphael, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, I would say I believe that the immersion process of the amusement park. I just came back from Stranger Things, so I'm a little hyped off of that. And we did walk in a room. We did experience it with 3D glasses. It wasn't in the AR or VR, but I am working on something very similar. I can express to you guys where you put AR, and the technology is just it's so close. And I'm on the budding of it. I'm talking with developers and coders, and they like to get experiential with artists, right? So, but we're working on something very similar where you put on glasses and you walk through a neighborhood, right? And you're able to see characters from the animation. So you're able to see characters in with AI and the ChatGPT. What I'm trying to do is plug that into conversations. So you got a real-time conversation. So there's things like that when you're bridging these different technologies that are emerging at the same time, you can bridge them together and you can have a different level of immersion that you wouldn't necessarily be able to have. I think using, you know, the AR, using the VR and all these capabilities, I think it's about removing it's about removing that technology buffer there. And I think hopefully the goal is to be able to walk in the room and not have nothing on and live in technology, right? To not see no more headgears, no more screens, no anything like that. to walk in a room and, you know, we have the holodeck. We're in the Star Trek situation where I think theaters, ironically, you look at theaters and you look at your home theater and you ask which one's a better experience, right? You do it at comfort your home. I think back in the days, theaters were a big deal. But now they're becoming secondary, right? A lot of movies are just coming on Netflix. We're getting that movie quality when originally we're getting that quality. So I think in the future, I think with AR and VR and in the metaverse, I believe that it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Great. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate the audience tuning in. Of course, you know, we could talk for hours around this. This is a great conversation. This is the future. And just like I say, again, on behalf of Den Black Film Festival and the Den Black Film Festival Institute, I appreciate you guys coming out, and we'll talk again very soon.
All right. Nice meeting y'all.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
And we want to thank everybody for tuning in.
Hello, I'm Harold Taft.
An obsession with being the most accurate and protecting their community.
Please be careful in the Dallas-Fort Worth area now.
Upheld today by the largest and most experienced team in North Texas.
Sharing resources and expertise, pushing boundaries to develop exclusive modeling software.
Filling in gaps that nobody else can. Certified most accurate forecasting DFW in both English y Español.
NBC5 and Telemundo 39.
Denton County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And as the county grows, it becomes more difficult to commute. At Denton County Transportation Authority, we provide clean, modern public transportation. Experience the many services DCTA has to offer, including our 21-mile commuter A train, as well as our Connect bus and UNT campus shuttle services available in Denton, or our GoZone on-demand app-based rideshare service available in Denton, Louisville, and Highland Village. We pride ourselves in providing you with the connectivity and transit options to safely get you around town or the region. At DCTA, we are committed to safe, customer-focused, and efficient mobility solutions for Denton County. DCTA. We get you where you need and want to go.